Hello and welcome aboard to this episode of the We Are Reading One Piece podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to following the entire story of One Piece from beginning to end as we focus on one volume each episode. So we try to keep the discussion spoiler free for new fans of the series. So this is the perfect place to follow along, whether you're new to the series or you want to revisit from the beginning and come along with us. This week we'll be covering Volume 4, The Black Cat Pirates, which covers chapters 27 through 35. My name is Joel, and joining me today we have Evan.
Hey guys.
All right, so yeah, so last week we left off with basically finding out that um, Miss Kaya's butler was actually a former pirate who has been plotting to kill her for the past 3 years. So we left off at a pretty dire place. So let's get right into this volume with chapter 27, True Lies. Kaya's butler, Mary, returns with a special order gift Kaya ordered for Clawhador. She hopes her loyal butler will like the gift to commemorate the 3-year anniversary of his arrival to Syrup Village. Meanwhile, Usopp is being chased off by the mob of angry villagers who have reached their limit with how much they can tolerate Usopp's shenanigans. But as Kuro had anticipated, nobody believed his claim that pirates are actually coming this time. Back at the beach, Luffy is reunited with his crew and the Usopp pirates. Turns out, Luffy was just sleeping when he fell off the cliff. He confirms that Usopp was telling the truth about Kaya's butler this time. Nami isn't too concerned since the villagers will have plenty of warning to evacuate the town before the raid. Usopp makes his way back to Kaya's estate and tries to warn her about Clawhador being a pirate who is planning to have her killed tomorrow morning. Kaya doesn't believe Usopp and is disappointed he would make up such a terrible lie about her butler. Kaya tells Usopp that she loved his stories because they were fun, but this one was just despicable. Kaya's guards catch Usopp talking to Kaya, but he manages to fight them off with his trusty slingshot. Out of desperation, he makes a final attempt to convince Kaya to run away with him and tries to pull her along, but Kaya slaps him and stops him in his tracks. She calls him a villain as Mary arrives with a gun and then shoots at Usopp. His arm is grazed as he runs off before the angry mob and Kaya's security team can capture him. As he walks alone, concerned about the impending attack, the rest of the group catches up to him. Usopp is surprised to see Luffy is alive, but he explains that he was just napping. Pepper says they need to warn the villagers about the attack, but Usopp laughs it off, admitting he just made up the story. The Usopp pirates are offended that Usopp would make up a story and trick Luffy like that, so they head home. With the kids now gone, Usopp meets with Luffy's crew to discuss how nobody believed him, but it's true, the pirates will be coming tomorrow. Usopp wants the village to think tomorrow will be just like any other day and will protect the villagers. Luffy and the crew decide that they'll help Usopp fight off the pirates. All right, so Evan, let's get your thoughts on this one.
So I think it's hilarious how Luffy's mind never seems to be quite focused on the present task. He's like mentioning how he's hungry and craving meat, or just like thinking about other things when he should be focused. And also in this in this chapter, we get Usopp using a slingshot, which is kind of the first time we've seen him in action doing something.
Right.
Showing his fighting skills, which he seems pretty adept with the slingshot, which we got some of his backstory last volume with his father being like a sharpshooter. And so I think that that appears to maybe be his area of expertise as well.
Yeah, the apple doesn't fall from the tree in this case.
Right. Yeah, I think, we get to see some of Usopp's character, and we see him in kind of like a difficult situation in this chapter and how he handles it.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. He's in a position where basically everything's coming to backfire on him. He's been basically in this like routine where he's doing this for fun, telling the lies about the pirates coming just to get everybody worked up because nothing happens. So now when it actually comes down to it, like you said last week, it's like the little boy who cried wolf.
Right.
It's basically the same exact situation. Now nobody believes him. And when he needs people to believe him the most, including Kaya, who basically like he's grown very close to over the years, like now Kaya doesn't believe him, and the way everything played out makes him look like he's just trying to be the bad guy, trying to save face and trying to make himself look better compared to like Clawhador. So nobody believes him in this case.
Yeah, and I think you got to feel for Usopp in this situation. He is like a liar by nature, and I think it's causing him a lot of grief. But he also, I think, at the end of this chapter, uses it to fool his. This when he fools his crewmates into thinking that it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he tells the Usopp pirates that he just made it up. He was lying, so that way they would just go home.
Right, but he's like lying in a noble fashion.
Yeah,
trying to divert them from the danger.
Yeah, that stood out to me as well. Like you said, it was like for a noble intention.
Mm-hmm.
Like normally, like when he tells these lies, it's like for like a fun story. Like he's trying to cheer up Kaya, so
Yeah,
he's telling these lies for good reason. So in this case, he's trying to protect the kids. I mean, after all, that they are just kids. Like they can play pirates all they want, but at the end of the day, they're going to be facing real pirates tomorrow. So he doesn't want them to get involved.
totally. Are we going to talk about the SBS at the end of the chapter?
Yeah, we can get to that if you want. For the SPS, I'm going to leave it up to you if you find anything that's like interesting. Some of the things we actually talked about last episode came up in the SBS.
I
This time.
know that's what I was gonna. I wanted to mention some of those things because I feel like some of our discussions had a conclusive answer in this.
Yeah, yeah. So we can talk about the SPS at the end.
What does SBS stand for? Do you know?
Yeah. So I did double check that because it is it's a Japanese phrase.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very fluent in Japanese, but it's Shitsumon oboshu suru, which basically translates to "I am taking questions."
Oh, cool.
So it's kind of like AMA from Reddit. Like that's Oda's AMA. He just gets them
That's
by letter.
awesome. Yeah, I think the only like big takeaway I got from this one was Oda gives the ages of Luffy, Zoro, and Nami.
Yeah,
and Shanks.
And Shanks too. Yep.
So that was kind of some insight. And I think that is something we've been discussing this whole series so far. So to recap, Luffy is 17, Nami is 18, Zoro is 19, and Shanks would be 37.
Yeah.
If you do the math, I think that was a clever way of giving but not giving the age of Shanks.
Yeah, he's kind of like a little like indirect about how he answered Shanks' age, which is a little weird.
He said Shanks is currently missing, but I'll tell you how old he was 10 years ago. When he was at Luffy's village, he was 27 years old.
Maybe he's like trying to say like we don't want to confirm if Shanks is alive,
right?
So we don't know what his situation is. So maybe that's what he's getting at here.
I thought that was pretty funny.
But yeah, I think this chapter is a little heartbreaking when Usopp is so desperate trying to help Kaya because he's basically putting himself on the line here because like he's just like desperately trying to get Kaya to come along because he knows that like she's gonna be the target of this attack tomorrow. So then like basically he has like the entire town against him. He has like the entire state, the guards against him, Kaya's against him. Basically everybody's against him except for like Luffy's crew. Even his own like Usopp pirates kind of turn against him because he kind of puts himself in that position where he denies that he was actually telling the truth. But yeah, at the same time, like everybody that like is from his village is basically against him at this point. So then like when Kaya slaps him, that's kind of like that probably hurts on an emotional level too.
That was an emotional scene, and that cell was so good.
With a slap.
The slap itself.
Yeah.
Looked great.
Yeah, and during that whole encounter, yeah, like you were saying, we got to see Usopp in action. Because this whole time he's just been running around and like being a scaredy cat.
Right.
But now we get to see him like actually fight back. So he does have some fighting skills. He's not completely useless here. He can
Heels his
fight.
own,
Yeah.
and apparently he can run really fast. We
Yeah.
made that pretty obvious this chapter. I'm not. Oh, there it is. Here's this lap.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets like that
Great.
whole panel.
Great panel. Yeah, but you're also feeling for Kaya too, because she's kind of just been like lied to her whole life, and she's surrounded by two people that have both been lying to her nonstop. And she doesn't know who to trust. You know, like who do you trust when your two closest allies both turn out to be liars?
But two very different liars.
True.
Yeah. But
yeah, Usopp. Yeah. Usopp does have a good heart. I think that when we first met him, he explained how he lies to kind of spice up life a little bit and just kind of, you know, I think he's a dreamer and like, you know, he likes telling tall tales.
Yeah. And like the Usopp pirates described like in the last volume that like the reason why he goes and tells the lies is to go cheer up Kaya. So they recognize that too.
Right.
So they know that the lies he tells are for fun. So that's what they like about him. They like that he has that kind of personality to him.
Mm-hmm.
So they see it as a good quality too. But now like when people will see like him trying to drag Clawdor's name through the mud, that's when like they're like, okay, Usopp, you've gone too far. Like this isn't funny anymore.
Yeah, Kaya gets very serious.
So anything else on this one before we move on to chapter 28?
I think we're probably. Oh, there was this cell. I think this cell. When Usopp is saying he wants to have like a real tall tale to tell, I thought that was a great line.
Yeah. Yeah, that
real tall tale to tell. Real tall tale to tell.
Yeah, it's like almost like a contradiction.
Right. I thought that was really funny and a clever way of getting that point across.
Oh, I did also want to go back because I also noted that like you're saying, Luffy was focused about the meat. Like his concern was like the butcher would be leaving town when they evacuate. He's like, oh no, we gotta go get the meat.
Priorities. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I just thought that was like a fun little line from Luffy because Luffy loves his meat. That's like his go-to food.
And it's like a high tension moment, and he's like, "Oh no!" And they're all like, "Oh, what? What's happened?" And he's like, "I have to go get some meat before the butcher closes."
Good old Luffy.
Classic Luffy.
All right, so let's move on to chapter 28, Crescent Moon. Usopp is surprised that the others would be willing to help him. Usopp thinks that they're pitying him and mocking him because he's scared, but they explain that they're impressed by his willingness to go up against the pirates and they wouldn't risk their lives out of pity. They begin to develop a strategy on how to prepare for the attack. Usopp explains they'll need to come up this path that's surrounded by cliff walls on both sides. Back at the mansion, Miss Kai has gone to bed to rest from the events that happened earlier. Clawdor checks in with Mary upon his return, who explains that Usopp had come by earlier, spouting nonsense about Clawdor being a pirate. Nobody would believe that, of course. Clawdor notices the gift from Miss Kaya. She got him new glasses because his would keep slipping. Clawdor notices the crescent moon, telling Mary that nights like this bring out the beast in him. With no need to keep up the facade, he destroys the gift from Kaya and cuts Mary down. Over on the ship of the Black Cat pirates, acting Captain Django addresses the crew. The day of the attack has arrived. Luckily, Usopp and the others have finished slicking up the path with oil. The plan is to hold the high ground and attack from above, while the pirates are stuck slipping during their attempt to climb up. Nami points out that they need to be careful not to get caught in the trap themselves. After all, that would be pretty dumb. Dawn has arrived and the Black Cat pirates hit land. They notice Luffy and Nami's boats, but Django tells them to stay focused on the plan. Luffy and the crew are still waiting for the pirates, who definitely should have been there by now. Nami states she hears yelling from the north. Usopp suddenly realizes they could have come from the other beach that is set up the same way as this one. He had assumed that they would meet at the same shore where Kuro and Django had their meeting. Luffy says they need to stop them. Usopp says that they just need to head north, which should only take them about 3 minutes. Nami's also worried about their treasure that's unguarded. Luffy rushes off in a hurry. Nami tries to run for it as well, but is caught in the oil slick. Thankfully, Zoro was there to grab onto, so she's able to jump out with his help by jumping on his back and getting him stuck down there instead. The others had each run off on their own, hoping to get to the other beach as soon as they could. Usopp arrives on the scene and shoots a slingshot at the pirates attempting to reach the top. Zoro is still stuck at the oil slick, while Luffy appears in the totally wrong part of town. So, yeah, things are getting pretty tense here because they spent all this time setting up the trap for the pirates. They thought they're going to be ahead of the game, and Usopp basically assumed that they were going to be coming from here, and they left the other beach basically free for the pirates to come through.
Whoops.
Little miscalculation on that one.
Oh, man. He's going to fit right in on this crew.
Just like a bunch of bumbling oafs, like
Right?
falling over each other and like running into the wrong directions and like
A lot of half-baked plans.
like nothing is going right so far.
Right? So we kind of see Clahador kind of give up the charade. And when he was talking about the moon and how like nights like this bring the beast out in me,
yeah,
I'm like, oh man, he's gonna be like a werecat.
Yeah.
You know, like the moon's gonna come out and he's gonna transform into like a cat of some sort. Which does not turn out to be the case, but it definitely felt like that's how they were kind of hinting in that direction.
Well, we haven't seen everything from Kuro yet, so who knows?
Ooh. Touche.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to any actual fighting with him.
Right. I mean, yeah, there is a little bit. Like we get to
bit.
see some of his weapons, but yeah, this is the first scene we really see him take somebody down as Kuro. And I definitely thought that Mary was a goner.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he looks pretty
not the case.
pretty close to death here.
Yeah, looks like he loses a lot of blood.
Yeah, but like basically like Kaya, like again, so like she really cares about Clahador and she gets this gift for him, and then he basically just throws on the ground, stomps on it. It's like, no, I'm done. I don't need to pretend anymore.
Yep.
And just like cuts out Mary, and then he's like, I'm just going off on my own. He doesn't care. Like he basically thinks he's like got this in the bag.
Yeah.
So he's like, I can just kind of let loose now, and I've done my waiting. As good as done.
Yeah. Zero emotional attachment. He was able to just like flick a switch.
Exactly.
Like, all right, the jig's up.
Yeah.
We get to see the Black Cat boat, the ship.
Yep.
That's some pretty cool design going on there.
Yeah.
Such a cool looking ship.
Yeah. So again, even the ship's on brand. Django just seems to be like the odd one out here. But everybody else is like totally committed to the cat theme.
Yep. Django's an odd one.
Yeah, I also love how he like moonwalks out of like the door on the ship.
And that what was his phrase? That was I like laughed out loud on that. All right, he said, "All right, you bloodthirsty scallywags. Good morning."
I think he like got mad. They woke him up too early, but
yes,
like, right before it turned to morning.
That was funny. There are a lot of funny panels in this volume. And then Zoro and Nami getting caught in their own trap after specifically saying, "Let's not get caught in our own trap."
Yeah, like Nami is like, you have to be dumb to get caught in this trap, and she's the one that gets caught in the trap.
And
Which
then
I feel
she
like it's a little
sacrifices Zoro
uncharacteristic for
to get
Nami.
out. What was that?
I think it's a little uncharacteristic for Nami because she's basically like very much like she outsmarts other people and she's very
Yeah.
clever. So I think I wish she finds a way to get out of the situation at the expense of Zoro, but that's how she is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, as soon as she realized her treasure was in danger, things got serious.
Doesn't care who she has to step on. She's
Yep.
gonna go save the treasure.
Poor Zoro.
Yeah, and Luffy just very gung ho, just runs off. He's like, "Yeah, I know where I'm going." Just runs off.
How do you get lost? He was like, it's a 3-minute run, so like it can't be that far. And Luffy's like, I'll be there in 20 seconds or whatever. And gets lost. Like, how do you get lost in that short span of distance? I don't know.
He was running really fast in the wrong direction.
And his logic was, I was told north, so I ran where it was cold.
Yeah.
That is pretty absurd. Not terrible logic, but didn't work out this time.
Yeah, I think he says that in the next chapter, but I think his logic was like the North Pole is probably cold, so I guess if I go north, that's the direction of the North Pole. That's what I'm thinking he was probably trying to find the logic in.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Talk about the
No, it was. Wait, was it? Was it this chapter?
might have been the next chapter.
No, I think it was this chapter actually. He says that line about being the coldest. That's why he went north, where he thought was north.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like right. It's the last panel of this chapter.
That's what it is. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, do you know the reference in this image at the very beginning of the chapter? It says "Marvelous Noon" on what appears to be Shank's t-shirt.
I don't. Yeah, I feel like he does put a lot of like random stuff.
Yeah. Very intentional. Yeah. You can tell it's like an intentional reference. I was just curious if you knew what it was for.
Yeah, sometimes like he'll do things very intentionally. Like I was saying before, like fans will actually pick out things on like character shirts that like say things that like sometimes they even describe what's going on in the scene.
Yep.
But like people pick up on it, but they're just like random background characters that like most people probably won't even notice.
Right, and
I don't.
On that, yeah, they touch upon that in the SBS in this volume, which is very cool. Like I think that's. Yeah. I mean, it's the first time we're seeing this at all, and we get a lot of it seemingly. Yeah. And I think it adds a lot. I think I enjoyed everything that Oda put in there. I thought it was all either useful or just hilarious. And I'm really enjoying the SBS so far. I feel like we said before, it answered a lot of the questions that were on our minds over the past 3 volumes.
They won't all be useful.
Hair. We had a whole discussion about the hair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And not only does he describe it, but he even gives you a visual diagram of how it works.
Yeah.
And this is Buggy's hair. Buggy's hair. Yeah, I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, that's a nice little touch he will do. Like he'll put little drawings in there to like illustrate a point.
Yeah.
So that is helpful for sure. But yeah, that I think that is when I discovered that was his hair. Because again, if you're like reading it in black and white, sometimes like you don't notice those things. But like if you see the character, you can see it is like blue. It matches his hair. But I still didn't realize that when I saw him the first time. Yeah,
you'd only know if you looked at the cover of the manga had a photo of Buggy, and you can see the color matches his hair and the plumes coming out of that. Yeah, I'm enjoying these.
All right, let's move on to chapter 29, Uphill Battle. Usopp notices that he is the first one to arrive at the other beach, which is not good. Usopp tries an obvious bluff that he's backed by 10 million men, which none of the pirates fall for, except acting Captain Django. Usopp will pay for the deceit. The pirates report they found about 5 million berries worth of treasure on Nami's boat. Usopp tells the pirates that it's his treasure, but they can have it if they leave. Or they could take the treasure and not leave. Django pulls out his pendulum and begins his hypnosis to have Usopp stand aside, but Nami arrives in time to hit Usopp for trying to give away her treasure. Oh, and to also stop him from being hypnotized. She notes Luffy isn't there, but he left before them, so Usopp orders her to go down there and attack. They bicker about who is less qualified to go down there and fight. The pirates decide to take advantage of this and rush in. In defense, Usopp pulls out some caltrops for he and Nami to spread around them. At this time, Zoro manages to get past the oil slick by sticking his swords in the ground. Now, all he has to do is find the right beach. Luffy is still struggling to find north and ends up at a dead end. The caltrops Usopp and Nami spread are doing the trick. Nami notes Usopp seems to have things under control and tries to head off, but then notices that she spread the caltrops behind him as well. Usopp is suddenly attacked from behind and receives a heavy blow to the head. From the ground, Usopp is not giving up and grabs the pirate's leg, saying he will not allow them to attack the village. Nami decides to help fight off Usopp's attackers. Django says that they're wasting time and they need to keep moving, otherwise Kuro will kill them all. As they rush past Usopp and Nami, some are sent flying back. Luffy and Zoro have arrived.
All right, it's heating up.
Yeah, that's a cool moment. They both show up.
Yeah,
They look like they're ready for business.
I mean, that's Cell. Like, that's another great example of just like how I love how he uses the text to like kind of frame the characters in a very, very cool, badass way.
Yeah. I like how they both show up and they're already angry at like Nami and Usopp for getting them stuck behind. Even though like Zoro, like he has a legitimate like grievance against Nami for getting him stuck there, but Luffy ran off without getting a chance for Usopp to actually tell him where to go. And like Usopp's like, I thought you knew where you were going. You just ran off like you did.
Yeah, no, that is great. They both come back so angry, and very targeted anger at Nami and Usopp specifically.
But it's like very much in character for them. They come back and they're like,
totally.
They make their grand entrance.
Yes, this is the caltrope torture. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Caltrope?
Like caltrop?
Caltrop?
Yeah.
Caltrop.
That's the way I've always pronounced it. Caltrop.
I love that Usopp had a little attack title to go along with caltrop torture.
He's always like trying to spice it up a little bit. Yeah, just like a simple attack, but that's like his bread and butter.
Yeah.
He does like these little tricks and he tries to like fancy it up.
He showed some serious resilience in this chapter.
Yeah.
He took a real beating from the pirates. I thought he was a goner for sure.
He got hit hard
in the back of the head with a stone mallet.
Yep.
And then that was repeated a bunch of times. Like, he's a resilient guy.
Yeah, and then he didn't give up at that point. He stayed like strong, and he was focused on defending the villagers. Even in that moment when his life was on the line, he was like, I need to protect the village. I'm not letting you go. So he reaches out, even though he's like basically like incapacitated.
Yeah.
Like he's still reaching out and trying to stop the attacker from moving on.
Yeah, pretty heroic. And as he's about to get finished off, Nami steps in to save the day. Which is impressive. Like having, these are very new characters to each other. Like Nami doesn't really have much of a relationship with Usopp yet.
Yeah.
But I feel like it showed good strength of her character and being like not being like stepping in that moment and saving Usopp's life and risking her own at the same time.
Yeah, so I feel like Usopp and Nami are kind of like in the same kind of like vein. Like like Luffy and Zoro are kind of like in their own category.
Yeah.
They're like the fighters, like they're like the big guns you bring in to win the fights.
Mhm.
Usopp and Nami are more like they try to like be clever. They try to like outmaneuver their opponents, but they're also like more afraid. Like they know they're
Right.
not as like
They're
straight
not as
up as like Zoro
fearless.
and Luffy.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're basically like at this point where they thought like the muscle is going to be there, and now they're kind of like like all right, well, now we have to try to like hold off our own.
Right.
So yeah, so I think it's an interesting dynamic to have these two be like the first line of defense.
Yeah, it was interesting getting to see them kind of fight together and their charisma together.
Yeah, like how they're fighting about like who should go down and fight.
Yeah. Like just giving excuses on why it shouldn't be them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Nami does a lot of preying on Zoro and Luffy showing up. She definitely is dependent upon their heroic moment, which does come in this at the end of this chapter.
Yeah. But then again, kind of going back to like Nami, like just throwing the caltrops behind them. Like this is like the second time she's done something like not the best move for them.
Right.
uh,
She gets herself into these sticky situations and then has to like bring her way out of them.
So like in my mind, I think like she was just like so nervous about like the fight, so I think she kind of just like wasn't really thinking. So that's my no prize. Like in Marvel, like in the comics, they would have like fans write in, and some fans would write in to explain like plot holes. Like they would find their own way to explain it, so they would call it no prize. So that's my no prize explanation for Nami throwing the caltrops, is that she was just so nervous at the time, she wasn't really thinking straight, so she just kind of threw him behind them too.
Or like Luffy getting lost. Like, why doesn't he stretch his neck up and look around? If it's a 3-minute run, it's not that far away.
Yeah, well, in the SPS we do get an answer for how far Luffy can stretch.
Oh yes, we do. I don't know if that's this chapter, but that
Is it it might be one of the ones come out, but it is in this volume.
Yes.
But
But he also explained it in a way that
it's not very helpful.
Yeah, it's not very helpful at all. It's self-contained and kind of useless.
Yeah. It's more of a joke answer, yeah.
I think a lot of his answers are pretty humorous or intentionally humorous.
Yeah.
Or exceptionally vague. But still a good read. I've honestly really enjoyed the SBS.
Yeah, they're very entertaining. I feel like in the later volumes they do like kind of like devolve into like being like just more like ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still some good stuff in there every once in a while.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
All right, so any other thoughts before we wrap up this chapter?
I'm going to move on.
Okay. So let's go into chapter 30.
From the top.
Backfire. Kuro sits on the steps of Kaya's mansion. The pirates are late. His patience running out, he starts to make his way to the beach. Nami chides Luffy and Zoro for being late, but Zoro points out that she got him stuck in the quagmire in the first place. Luffy is upset that Usopp didn't clearly tell him which way was north, though Usopp points out he ran off like he knew where he was going. Django realizes he needs to up their game after most of their crew just got blasted away by the newcomers. He begins to hypnotize them into believing they'll become super strong and their wounds will heal. Nami doesn't believe that can work. With a newfound strength, they get a second wind and begin destroying the cliffside. Wow, that actually worked. Zoro tells Nami and Usopp to head up the cliff, so he and Luffy can handle the... Wait, what's wrong with Luffy? He was affected by the hypnotism too. He runs into the entire pirate force and uses his Gum Gum Gatling attack to knock them all back. But why stop there? He runs over to their ship and begins tearing off the stem post. To stop him, Django hypnotizes Luffy to fall asleep, trapping him beneath the stem post. Django calls in the big guns, the Meowbond brothers. Kuro continues to make his way through the village, but Onion thinks it's odd to see him heading to the beach this early. All right, so we get a little bit of action this chapter.
Such a good chapter. This was really fun.
Yeah, things are picking up a little bit now.
Yes. The moment. Well, first of all, Django's has been kind of a fool this whole time. I feel like he really shows his true power in this chapter
Yeah.
with the hypnotizing his crew to become like super strong. That makes you wonder how powerful he really is, because I feel like that's a pretty powerful like specialty to have.
Yeah,
And
basically
then
he's
when
tricking the mind.
Zoro's like, "Let's go, Luffy." Luffy. He looks over and Luffy is gone. Super Saiyan. Oh my
But
god.
Luffy
That was such
Luffy
a
would
great
be
moment. That
yeah,
was such a great moment.
yeah, Luffy would be the one to get caught in the hypnotism.
Yes. It's not the first time he's gotten caught up in the hypnotism.
Yeah.
So good. I thought that was a really great moment. And then getting to see the Gum Gum Gatling gun was incredible, and an incredible name for an attack.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good one. Basically, like he's able to bounce his arms really fast, so it looks like he's doing like 100 punches.
Yeah, that's
So
a great
he clears
style
them
right
all
there.
out. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, and I love the alliteration. Just
Yeah.
I love this though. He was like Hulk mode. I mean, no pupils, just like
Yeah. He's basically asleep at this
he
point.
was in a trance. Yeah, and he rips the post off the ship. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's why this chapter is called Backfire.
Or no, we got some vocabulary. He tore off the stem post.
The stem post, yeah.
Get some good boat terminology in there.
Yeah, I actually looked up to see if that was an actual term for it.
Yeah.
And what I was saying, like I don't think it's like the most common term for it, but I think it is an acceptable use. But yeah, I was getting a little bit more of the boat anatomy. But yeah,
That was cool. And like scuttling the ship, that's some more pirate jargon.
The pirate
I'm here
lingo,
for
yeah. Yeah, but I do love that concept of Django hypnotizing them to be stronger, and like Nami is just like that's not how it works, right? And it's like apparently it is.
And Luffy's just like, "Yar!" That was a very good moment. I really enjoyed that. But yeah,
Yeah, we kind of
more powerful than previously portrayed. I feel like has been really a joke up until now. I feel like
who is that?
I feel like now is the first time that we saw Django like actually like be a threat, or
Yeah,
like
he didn't
seem like a
affect
powerful
himself.
opponent. Oh, that's the other thing. So he hypnotizes Luffy to fall asleep and didn't fall asleep himself, which was like a prominent point made earlier in the volume. So I guess in the heat of battle, he got over that problem with his own powers.
I think he is kind of like hit or miss for him. Like I feel like he doesn't have it perfected, but like I think he's capable of not affecting himself, because he also didn't hypnotize himself with making everybody stronger. He didn't affect himself.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like he's kind of like it depends. Like sometimes he does accidentally catch himself too.
Yeah, because I think up until that moment, that was kind of his gimmick thing. Like, and it was something that Kuro made fun of him for. He's like, you really need to like figure that out.
Yeah, especially because like their plan hinges on him also getting Kaya to sign the will.
Right.
So he needs to be able to do that. I guess if he falls asleep, she'll probably still be able to sign it. But like, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was a good chapter. And Kuro makes his move. He's headed to the beach.
Yeah, so that's not a good thing. We don't want Kuro to be there because we know how from what we've heard, like how deadly he can be, and like he's going to mean business. And we've already seen how ruthless he was, even with Mary.
Yeah.
So that was pretty brutal.
And his crew fears him greatly.
Yeah, and Django in particular, who is now the acting captain. Like Django is also like terrified of Kuro, so
yeah,
he does not want him there.
because this whole time they're not following the plan. They're being slowed down by Luffy and co. And yeah, he's getting pretty nervous.
Yeah, so Django recognizes the urgency. I feel like the rest of the crew probably not so much, but Django
Yeah.
definitely does. All right, so let's move on to chapter 31, Truth.
Let's.
Kaya awakes from a nightmare she was having about being attacked by Usopp. She tries to find Klahadore, but instead finds Mary on the ground bleeding. He tells Miss Kaya that Klahadore was the one who attacked him and is actually a pirate. So Usopp was telling the truth after all. He tried to warn them, but was driven away. Kaya feels terribly guilty for how she treated Usopp earlier. Mary tells her that she's the only one who can stop Klahadore at this time, but she doesn't have to put her life at risk. Kaya would feel even worse if she didn't try to stop him, so she decides she'll go and talk to him. The Usopp pirates have now formed a meeting and decide that Usopp was probably telling the truth after all, and had just told them the attack wasn't happening to send them off. They happen to notice Kaya walking alone in the village. Back at the battle, Django summons the Meowbon brothers, Siam and Butchie. Django orders them to attack Zoro, but turns out they're just scaredy cats. Reluctantly, Siam runs towards Zoro, but suddenly changes personality to reveal it's just a ruse to throw him off. Siam is actually a cat burglar and steals 2 of Zoro's swords. So that's a pretty short chapter.
Yeah. So many great cat puns, most of which you included in your description, which I appreciate. Yeah. That was one of my notes. Just so many good puns in this chapter.
Yeah, they definitely find some good ways to throw in like the cat puns. We'll get some more in the next chapter too.
Yep.
But yeah.
Enter the Meowbon brothers.
Yeah, they're an interesting group of characters here.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so I do like how Siam does put on the act. They basically like they make everybody think they're pathetic. These are who they're sending out to like defend them. Like they're supposed to guard the ship. And then like it's all just like an act. And then like just like that, he's like ruthless and he just comes in and steals the swords like nothing.
Yeah, and Zoro had to fight with one sword, which he was not too happy about.
Yeah. Yeah, so like that's not
gonna... And his swords got snagged.
Yeah, like his whole style, like depends on the three sword style. That's like his like that's his strength.
I think he mentions that in the next, maybe it was this chapter. Might be the next chapter where he's like, it's not just 3 swords, it's like the technique or something like that. Like the way of 3 swords is different. Yeah,
that's gonna be a plot point for the next few chapters. So, but yeah, that's important to note, though. Yeah, without the other 2 swords, he's at a severe disadvantage. So, these characters we think like probably wouldn't put up much of a fight normally. So Zoro is basically they kind of leveled the playing field here by taking away Zoro's strength here and leaving him with just 1 sword. So a good move on their part.
Yep. I love their intro. Like the character design on these 2 is so good.
Yeah. Yeah, they're basically like kind of like opposites of each other.
Yeah. And Butchie has a giant bell around his neck, which is hilarious. And like the long, sharp nails is definitely a gimmick of this pirate crew. Like,
yeah,
that's definitely a theme. The cat theme. And we haven't really seen Kuro's full look yet. We've just gotten glimpses. We just got glimpses of that.
Yeah, so when he attacked Mary in the earlier chapter, like we just saw like the blades. We didn't really see what was going on there.
Yeah. We didn't see how he was wielding them. We just saw like the glint of the blades.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
the SBS.
Oh, the SBS, yeah.
Yeah, so in this one, they talk about the design on Klahadore's suit, which we talked about,
right?
I think, last episode.
Yep.
And we were saying how much it looked like poop. And in this SBS, Oda confirms it's poop.
Yeah.
Using his
Just very
word,
matter of
it's
factly.
poop.
Yeah, I love how like that's just how he says it. Yep, it's poop.
Yep, very, very.
No explanation. That's it.
Yeah.
Not why he did it or like you're misinterpreting it. Straight up poop.
So good. Yeah, these SBSs I think add a lot of dimension to this volume, you know, because it's something we haven't gotten until this volume, and I definitely really appreciate it and really enjoyed it. Like
Yeah.
I'm glad that I think that was a very nice addition to this volume.
Yeah. Yeah, like I was saying, like there are like points where it's like there's some really cool like little tidbits that Oda will put in there, or he'll
Yeah.
put like fun things, or like he'll show things that like there weren't really room to put in the pages of the manga.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much a supplemental material. So there are some cool things that he does put in there.
It is funny how many subjects he touches upon that we have discussed, you know, in the first few episodes of this podcast, just being like, I wonder what his thoughts were here, or why did he do this, or what, you know, what was the direction here? And it's funny how, you know, those questions were brought up and answered in this volume.
Yeah, like in the previous volumes, we had like kind of like little like tidbits like here and there.
Yeah.
Or he kind of like offered up like, you know, like the rough drafts of things, and
right. It was more like his thought
Boogie
process.
stuff with Buggy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this kind of puts it more in the hands of the reader.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really great. Because yeah, it's our perspective. It's the questions we've been curious about. So it's really nice getting answers, you know.
One thing I wanted to talk about the chapter before we move on was just the conversation between Kaya and Mary. I think this is also a good way to highlight Kaya's character.
Yeah.
Because Mary says that she's the only one that can stop Kahador. I think he's hoping that there's like an emotional connection deep down with Kuro.
Yep.
So he thinks that Kaya might stand a chance, but I don't think they realize like just like how far gone Kuro is and like what his intentions have been this whole time. So I kind of feel like they still had that attachment of him being Kahador and not realizing that it was an act the entire time.
Right. Yeah, she's so pure of heart. I feel like she's going to extreme lengths to try to see the positive, or try to like play to the humanity of Klahadore.
Yeah, right.
But I think we as readers know it's not there because we've seen his ruthlessness that she hasn't seen.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So they still have that like incomplete picture of Kuro being Klahadore and like the butler they know. But yeah, I think they're in for a rude awakening here.
The butler.
the butler. Yeah. There's a lot of that going around with the Usopp Pirates.
A lot of that going around.
Just like the juvenile jokes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And it's a great moment coming up.
Yeah, so speaking of that, let's move on to chapter 32, Cruel Fortune. Zoro demands his swords back, but Sion mocks him that one should be enough. He chucks the swords down the hill and out of reach. Zoro becomes angry that Sion is not respecting his swords and slices at him, seemingly cutting him at the torso. Zoro being at a disadvantage, he runs after his other swords, but Sion pounces on his back and stops him. Turns out Sion is just really skinny, so Zoro just cut his shirt. With Zoro pinned down, Butchie catapults into the air and gets ready to crush Zoro. Zoro is able to push himself out of harm's way just in time. Zoro is still down 2 swords and is now outnumbered. Nami points out that they're pushing Zoro back and he's losing ground, so she asks Usopp to intervene. Usopp takes a shot with his slingshot right at Butchie, but Zoro throws his body in the way and takes a shot and is then hit by a slash from both brothers. Usopp is confused because he knows that he wasn't going to hit Zoro, but it was like he got hit on purpose. Nami realizes that Zoro probably took the hit to avoid having the Meowbons shift their attack to them and get them killed. Nami knows that she needs to get Zoro's swords back and runs down the hill. With the swords just in reach, Django interferes and slices Nami with his pendulum that doubles as a chakram. At once, Django and the Meowbons freeze in their track as they notice Kuro has arrived, and he is not happy.
Dun dun dun. This guy's got people real scared.
Yeah, even the Meowbons stopped attacking.
Yeah, even the Meowbons. Did you say catapult?
Yeah. Another one.
I can't get enough of these cat puns. They're so good.
Yeah, there's a few more in there. Like when Butchie hits the ground. Do you have that one there?
So good.
Yeah, what was it called? Like catastrophe.
Oh, catastrophe. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, so they're already over here, like double teaming Zoro. Zoro's already like, again, we talked about how he was at disadvantage with only the one sword. He's out of his element. He's now taking on two opponents at the same time with only one sword, and he's still fighting them off, but they're pushing him back. And they try to pin him down and have Butchie like slam him down, but he dodges out of the way. But he's really on the back foot here.
Yep. And this is when Yusuf takes a shot, right? And he deflects. Yes, he takes the hit.
Yeah.
At first, I thought this was going to be a callback to his last, semi-boss battle where he handicaps himself and pretty much is like, I got this. Like, I don't need your help. More of like a flex where he's like, I got this. I don't need any help. Like, I'm the best swordsman in the world, and I can prove it. I don't need assistance. Like, I don't need any handicaps. But then their logic was to not bring his teammates into the battle, which I also thought was like still a very noble cause.
Yeah.
And he ends up taking a shot because of it, which I thought was really well displayed. This panel where he gets sliced across his chest.
Right. Yeah, he gets punished pretty hard for that one.
He gets punished really hard, but I think this panel in particular, the way in which they show the damage being dealt is really cool because you can see like the claw swipes like in midair, and they're like bloody as if they like made contact, but he's already like hit the ground and is spewing blood out. I just thought that was like a really dynamic panel.
Definitely.
That kind of like shows how that shows the action really well and shows like the elapsement of time between him getting struck and going down. And it's just like, I thought those were really particularly well done. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, but I had the same kind of thought too, where like it seems like he might have taken the shot because he was trying to defend his pride.
Yeah.
And be like, I can handle this on my own.
Yep.
I think maybe the pass is that like they're not swordsmen. It's like even though they're using like sharp objects, like they're not actually swords. So like in his mind, he's like, they're not swordsmen, so I can I can use a little bit of help. But yeah, like so their logic is probably the truth, where it's like Zoro just doesn't want them to shift focus and go after them because Zoro probably can't hold them off to save them. They'll probably be quick enough to get to them first before Zoro can stop them.
Either way, badass.
Yeah. Yeah. I love those Zoro moments though. Basically he takes the hit for his team. He's a real team player.
He really is. He sacrifices himself for the greater good a lot of times.
Yeah.
Or we've seen that a lot so far. And Nami takes a hit too.
That's right. Yeah.
Nami also gets sliced up in this chapter, going for the swords to get back to Zoro. Django chops her with his ring, which also apparently doubles as a like throwing knife.
Yeah.
Throwing. What was it called?
The chakram.
Chakra.
Chakram. Yeah. They'll have it coming up in the next chapter. But yeah, it's like a bladed ring.
A bladed ring. Yeah, that was cool. I mean, poor Nami. She's just trying to be a hero.
Yeah, but Nami also recognizes that with this situation, Zoro needs his swords.
Right.
Otherwise,
she's very aware. Yeah.
She knows Nami recognizes that, and she runs in, and she's hoping to use like her thieving skills to kind of get in and out. But yeah, then Django is again very much defending that area, and holds her off and tries to attack her.
Yep. And right when the crew is at their weakest, Kuro shows up.
Yeah.
And everyone is trembling in their boots. Poop Jacket is here.
Mr. Poop Jacket himself. The one and only.
The one and only.
But yeah, this is also a pretty short chapter.
Yes.
But yeah, let's move on to chapter 33, The Creeping Cat. Kuro is disappointed to see how far the Black Cat pirates have fallen if these mere children are holding off their attack. Django tries to save face by explaining that the captain had said it didn't matter if they let the kids go, but Kuro maintains that he was right, as they shouldn't have been a problem. He didn't think his pirates would be so weak. The Meowbon brothers take offense to this, but while Kuro was living the easy life in the mansion these past 3 years, they had been out on the seas working hard as pirates. The Meowbons accuse Kuro of growing soft and no longer acknowledges them as their captain as they proceed to attack him. As they attack, Kuro disappears. Turns out they were right. He has gone soft. He's not as fast as he used to be. He may not be their captain anymore, but he hired them to do a job. Failure to complete his job will result in death. Now armed with his famous cat claws, Django explains that Kuro's pussyfoot maneuver allows Kuro to move at such speeds that he could take out 50 assassins before they would even know he was there. With his cat claw gloves, he would have to push his glasses up with his palm to avoid scratching himself. Django notices Kuro would still adjust his glasses this way. He knew that Kuro hadn't changed. Kuro grants the brothers mercy. They have 5 minutes to wrap up this fight, otherwise he will kill everyone himself. Nami managed to recover and kicks the swords back over to Zoro. Now fully armed, he is able to take both of them out with one Tiger Hunt attack. Just when it seemed the fight was over, Butchie is still alive and calls for Django to hypnotize him so he can keep fighting. Butchie is now up again and stronger than before. Nami sees an opportunity to run over and wake Luffy. Django notices and throws the chakram at her. As she steps on Luffy's head, Zoro tells her to hit the deck. So that's where this chapter ends.
Heating up. Let the battle commence.
So yeah, now there's a little bit of infighting here.
Yeah. A mutiny.
A mutiny.
They're gonna mutiny. I thought that happened naturally. I thought that was a justified mutiny. They're like, who are you? You've been, out of the business for 3 years while we've been growing stronger. You've been growing weaker.
Yeah.
And they kind of see an opportunity to take over. But Edward Scissorhands had other plans.
Yeah, so we get the actual visuals of the cat claws.
We get to see his look for the first time. I was like, ooh, this might be a job for Zoro, the sword fighter with sword fingers over here. I mean, those are significant swords attached to every single digit.
Yeah. So that explains why he was adjusting his glasses like this.
I thought that was a great detail.
Yeah.
That was a great detail because he's been doing that the entire series so far.
We're talking about the shwip. But yeah, there's a reason for it. Yeah.
Right. I thought that was great. That was a rewarding payoff.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the same way. It just, again, those are the kinds of things like Oda sets up as like little payoffs. Even things that you don't think are important, like they can come back later and like actually end up being something that mattered.
Yeah.
Like he'll plant seeds like very far in advance. So this is like a pretty quick payoff. But yeah, he's not afraid to plant seeds and just come back later on to address those.
Yeah, that was clever. I thought that was well done. And then next thing you know, we've got Zoro doing the Tiger Hunt.
Tiger Hunt.
Which
see one of his cool attacks.
Was very cool looking and also seemed like perfectly convenient for this situation. Like Tiger Hunt, like a perfect attack for fighting 2 cat-themed pirates.
Yeah.
Tiger Hunt. Like, come on. Like, that was. He's been like, I've had this one in my pocket. I've been waiting to use this one forever. And this is the perfect opportunity. Like, all right.
But yeah, we actually get to see him use like the three sword style here,
Yeah. So
and we see
cool.
how easily he dispatches the Meowbomb brothers, who were, basically like he was at their mercy just like a few seconds ago, and now he's back to full strength. He can take them out no problem.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible what those two swords do to his power.
Yeah.
Yep, Zoro just being badass as always.
Yeah, but I like earlier how John goes trying to be like, oh, but you said it was okay to let the kids go, and Kuro was like, yeah, it was, but if you guys weren't so bad, it wouldn't be an issue. I didn't think you were going to be this bad at handling the kids.
Right.
So yeah, I like the little infighting there too. But yeah, a little bold of Django to also kind of like try to try to like stand up to Kuro in that sense. But
Mhm.
yeah, just a little pushback.
Yep. And then we got Nami waking up Luffy, which gets real spicy. Um,
Yeah, kind of ending on a cliffhanger here.
yeah, big cliffhanger. Yeah, let's move on. I was like, I'm so ready for the next because
Yeah.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay, yeah. So let's move on to chapter 34, A Humble Servant. Nami steps on Luffy's head, which wakes him up. Just as Nami is about to be hit, Luffy gets up to yell at Nami for stepping on him, but is then hit in the back of the head with the flying chakram. Kuro had thought Luffy was already dead. Luffy is angry when he gets hit, but this isn't enough to take him down. Luffy pulls the chakram out and shrugs off the attack. Luffy notices Nami's shoulder was cut and shows concern, but Nami says that they need to defend the treasure so Luffy can tell that she's fine. Luffy notices that Kuro is here, who announces that they have 3 minutes left before he kills them all. Kaya arrives at the site and yells for Clawhador. Usopp is upset that Kaya is here, but the pirate's job just got a lot easier. She tells him that Mary told her everything, so she knows the truth. Kuro is surprised that Mary lived. Seeing Kuro for what he really is, Kaya apologizes to Usopp. Usopp just wants her to get out of here. Kaya offers to give Kuro her fortune if he just leaves the village alone. Kuro says that this is not good enough. He needs a peace of mind and not having to live on the run, and says it's crucial that she die for his plan to work. Kaya came prepared, though, and pulls out a gun. She threatens for him to leave with the gun now pointed at him. Kuro looks back at how much Kaya has grown these past 3 years, as he served as her butler. He endured it so he could kill her on this day. He was the great Captain Kuro, reduced to serving the whims of a young girl. Usopp can't stand this anymore and goes in to punch Kuro, who easily dodges. He still hasn't gotten over Usopp punching him from before. Before Kuro can attack, Luffy stretches and punches Kuro. Luffy taunts him that if he doesn't like getting hit, he's got 100 more punches coming. Yeah, so pretty brutal how Clawhador or
Oh my
Kuro.
gosh. The opening of this chapter. Luffy taking the blade to the back of the head. I was like, I thought he was going down. I mean, like, we know that he's weak to blades and sharp objects. Like, the rubber isn't really effective against that. And so he just full on takes a blade to the back of the skull and doesn't even fall over. Like, catches himself. That was a badass moment. Like,
yeah, that was pretty cool.
Foot stomp, like this whole scene.
Yeah.
Very badass. He catches himself and pretty much just literally pulls the blade out of the back of his head and just shakes it off. Pretty baller move. And he was pretty amped up about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so like these are those moments where like I like when Luffy gets intense.
Yeah.
And like, he means business. So like well, first he's angry at Nami for
that was
stepping on
great.
his head.
Because he gets really intense. Oh, and the Nami's like, this is a fight we have to win. And he was like, Nami? And she was like, there's a lot of treasure on the line. He's like, oh, okay, that's the Nami I know. Like,
oh, you're good. Okay.
He was like, are you having a sentimental moment right now? And she's like, well, yeah, we need the treasure. He's like, oh, okay, good.
Good to see her priorities are still in line.
Yes. She wouldn't be Nami if she wasn't, gold digging.
But yeah, I feel like when like Kuro's just like so blunt about his feelings towards Kaya,
Yeah.
like it seemed like he's also again going to show like a bit of humanity, and he just doubles down. It was like I hate like every second of it. Like I had to basically reduce myself to like your servant, and now for that like you're going to die. Like I put up with it so I can kill you today.
Which is kind of bullshit. He subjected himself to that. He chose that path. Like, he went incognito as a butler, and he's giving her shit for him having to bow down and be a butler. It's like, you chose that path, bro. Like,
He did, but just
know,
for this moment. So he's like, I can do this for 3 years, and then after that, that's it. I'm gonna end it. That's
yeah,
the plan. And he's sticking to it. So he's completely unfazed, even with the gun pointed at him. Like he's not concerned about Kaya.
right. I think he probably knows her too well. He knows she's not someone who can pull the trigger.
That's a good point.
Because he does make that point. He's like, I know you better than most people.
Yeah. Yeah. So meanwhile, while Kaya thought she was getting to know Clawhador was getting to know her, but she wasn't actually getting to know the real Clawhador.
Right.
So he's not the person that she thought he was.
Usopp takes his shot. I thought that was a great panel, great scene.
Yeah, that's a cool one too.
Usopp goes in for the punch, and Luffy takes down Kuro in a gum pistol, which he didn't announce. Which was like, one of those moments where he needed a sneak attack because he was so far away that if he had yelled gum pistol and then tried to punch this guy in the face, he would have been able to dodge it.
Yeah, he wasn't
got his what is it called? The pussy weight? No, what was it?
The pussyfoot maneuver.
Pussyfoot maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
Which you haven't fully gotten to see. It was kind of hinted at when he fought the brothers, but
right.
You haven't really gotten to see the full extent of that power. But yeah, Luffy catches him off guard and gives him a good one. Just takes him out. Which I think was shocking for the crew, for Kuro's crew. They're like, oh my god, Kuro just got punched in the face.
Like Luffy's a dead man.
Yep.
And Usopp showing some real moments of bravery here too.
Yes, definitely. Is this when he gives himself up to and is like telling his crew to bring her back, or
next one?
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Jumped ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does show a lot of character in this volume as a whole. I think he grows a ton, but yeah, like in this chapter and the next chapter, I think he really kind of pulls his weight in the like bravery and just like in battle. I think that he kind of keeps a calm head and stays aware of the situation.
Yeah, in this case, he has his eyes set on like what's important, and to him, like his main focus. He again, this is like his village. This is his hometown, so he has a lot of like care for this town, and he wants to make sure the villagers are safe, especially Kaya.
Yeah,
Kaya's like probably the most important person to him in the whole world, so he doesn't want anything to happen to her. So, he wants to make sure that she can get out of here and just just be safe. But yeah, so she's basically at the worst possible place to be right now.
Totally. And there's a lot of bad blood between him and Kuro, having overheard Kuro's plot, as well as Kuro's slanders towards his father. Like, there's a lot of pent up anger between those two characters.
Yeah, and Clawhador had to like restrain himself like all those times. Yeah. So like we saw how like he had the contempt for Kaya, for just being like a nice person, but like she still had like he was still like the servant to her.
Right.
But like Usopp was basically someone who was just like antagonistic to him like the whole time. So now Kuro can kind of like let loose here. He doesn't have to hold back anymore.
Right. Leading up to a good fight.
All right, so let's move on to the final chapter of the volume.
All right.
So before we get to the chapter proper, we actually get part one of a cover story. This one isn't labeled, but this is actually part one of Buggy's crew after the battle.
Oh yeah.
Buggy, still small sized, rows away on a raft away from killer fish. So that's a summary of the first part of the cover story.
Wait, where did you read that?
So that's my summary for the cover story.
Oh, you're summarizing it. I thought
Yeah.
there was a summary for it. I'm like, I didn't realize we got more than that. It was just like an image.
Yeah, so we'll actually get clarity that this is a cover story in the next volume.
Oh,
So I'm
well,
just
I
gonna give you like
love
a
the art.
little sneak peek. Oh, yours actually does say it.
We get little mini Buggy.
Oh yeah, yours does say. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The Viz website didn't actually list it as part one of the cover story, unless
Cool.
I missed it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it doesn't say it on there. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that the
This
volume does show it.
this printing is a recent one. I think it's like 2021 or.
Yeah. So I do have the volume. But yeah, I was just reading this one on the line this time. But I think I'll switch back over to the volumes this week because my subscription's gonna run out.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna just switch back over to the volume
Nice. Yeah,
for
the
next
volume.
week.
I just found the volume I have is the 21st printing, and it was printed in 2021, so it's pretty
Okay.
recent.
Okay. Yeah. So the Viz version actually doesn't list this as cover story. It's just basically the image. And it
Cool.
has chapter 35. So I'm glad that the volume does actually list it as a cover story. But
Yeah.
this is what I was talking about before, where like Oda will um before he's just doing like fun little art for each chapter,
Mhm.
but now he's gonna
Which
actually
I've
tell.
loved.
Yeah, so now he's gonna start doing like, a
It's so
little
good.
mini story. It's gonna be different parts. So every chapter is going to have a next part of this little story.
Cool.
So we see this little picture of Buggy where he's still in his small form. So he hasn't
I
regained
love
the rest of his
that.
parts. Yeah.
Hilarious.
So this is Buggy's fate after his fight with Luffy. Now he's by himself on a raft, trying to get away from these fish that are trying to eat him, and he's still small.
So good.
He's kind of like Mario. When like
Yes.
he gets he doesn't have the mushroom, so he's like little mini Mario.
So funny. There's like no torso, just all head and limbs. That's
All
cool.
right.
I mean, I honestly, I've really loved all of like the random artwork that they've had at the beginning of the first 34 chapters.
Yeah.
Like, I've truly loved that. I've like, it's been really creative and really fun and just like seemingly totally random, which I thought was great.
Yeah. There will be more, but it's also
Right.
fun to switch it up with these cover stories, which I think is like a really smart idea
Yeah.
to tell a secondary story. So like you'll get like basically something that's like not important enough to put into the main story pages, but like it's a little something that might actually set the stage for something else. So like he can kind of do a little bit of both at the same time and use those cover stories effectively to build out like another story.
Neat. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And the manner in which I'm reading it, like reading very consistently, I feel like that'll be easier to follow.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, let's move on to the chapter proper, chapter 35, The Steep Slope. Everyone is stunned that Luffy was able to knock Kuro to the ground. The Usopp pirates jump out and take this opportunity to attack Kuro while he's down. After teaching Kuro a lesson, they announce that they figured out what was happening, so they came to help. Usopp yells for them to get out of here. They stand firm and won't abandon their captain. Kuro stands up and just walks past the kids, then kicks Usopp. Kuro realizes Luffy must have eaten a devil fruit, which Luffy explains that he's a Gum Gum man. Kuro tells Django he'll take care of Luffy and orders him to proceed with the plan to have Kaya sign the will and then kill her. Zoro stops Django, but Butchie is still in the fight and tries to slam down Zoro again. Zoro dodges again and continues to fight off his opponent. Usopp orders his crew to carry out their most important mission, protect Miss Kaya. They then leave with Miss Kaya to try to bring her to safety. Django isn't ready to let them escape, but Usopp attacks him from behind with a slingshot. The Usopp pirates escape into the forest with Kaya, but Kuro says that they won't be able to escape Django. He tells Usopp to run for help if he wishes, but he'll need to get past him first. Luffy and Zoro step up and tell him to leave it to them.
In their typical badass manner.
Yep.
Another great panel. I'm really enjoying the duo of Luffy and Zoro.
They make a good team.
Your battle. They make a really great team.
Yeah, I feel like they just started clicking really fast, like right from the
Totally.
beginning. They've been like on the same page.
And yeah, and their fighting styles so far have like complemented each other, and they seem to have like a very good camaraderie and chemistry in battle.
Yeah, and even like from a kind of like their own philosophy kind of standpoint, like they seem to also have similar mindsets like we've seen like in the past volumes. Whereas Zoro seems to understand where Luffy's going with certain things and like the way he approaches things, like when he attacks Boodle and push him into the wall to knock him out. Like Zoro was like, that makes sense to me. Like so we get that same kind of like approach that they're kind of on the same page when it comes to those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. They have like the same like competitive spirit, and like they're both just like incredibly driven people.
Yeah, and they're ready to throw down for a fight.
Ready to throw down. Excited to throw down, really. They're both like fighting with smiles on their faces.
Yeah, so what do you think of Kuro in this chapter?
It took a beating from those kids pretty well. I mean, that was a great moment from Usopp, like Usopp's doing literally everything he can just to protect Kaya, including ordering some little kids to take her away and protect her.
Yeah.
And they all get a shot in on Kuro, which he seems pretty unfazed by. He doesn't seek vengeance. As you see him, he walks by the kids and he walks by Nami to attack Usopp.
Again, kind of like a personal vendetta against Usopp.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of bad blood between these guys. And then there's this. Oh my gosh, this is such a great panel with
That's a cool one.
Isn't that? Like that's so good. Kuro's holding his hands out, showing all of the blades, and just like this very cool symmetrical.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then even like the words going through, like those are the string.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Very cool panel. And then
I love how he just kind of takes that beating from the kids.
Yeah, he just shakes it off. Got hit in the face with a shovel. He's like, I'm gonna just pretend that didn't happen.
So yeah, luckily he doesn't resort to like just outright killing them.
Yeah,
so he's like he's like barely bothered by it. Right. But yeah, then we talked about like how Usopp basically has like that noble retreat for the kids, like and Kaya. Basically, he gives like Zoro points out that he gives them like an honorable reason to run away from this fight. So I really like how he framed that, and he basically convinces them to leave with Kaya.
Yeah, that was a great moment. Starting to like Usopp as a character. Not that he was ever like overly unlikable. Like he definitely, was this tall. He was like lying and telling tall tales and seemed kind of aloof and a bit like of a whiner. But like I think his character's really come around, and like seeing how he's handled the heat of battle and life or death situations, I feel like he's kind of shown his mettle and has like become a much more likable character. And even was fighting. I think I might be getting ahead of myself, but this is the episode this is the chapter where Django goes to take a shot at the fleeing Kaya and his crew, and he shoots Django in the back with his what's it called?
Was it the lethal slingshot?
Slingshot. Yeah, he uses a slingshot and distracts him enough to let them make their escape.
Yeah.
And again, it's like the same moment earlier when the pirate tries to escape, but he grabs the pirate even though he's been bludgeoned half to death. He shows great resilience and a determination, like even in high stress situations where his morals come through and he makes his point, and so far has been successful in surviving and saving his friends. So that's always a
That's been the
positive.
goal.
That's the goal. Has happened successfully so far.
Going back to your point, though, I agree. Like with Usopp, he's a character I didn't like very much at first. I
Yeah,
feel like he's kind of an acquired taste, and I feel like you kind of have to get to know him. Like for me, I think even at this point, I really didn't like him as much. Like compared to like Luffy and Zoro, who are just like they're just like cool characters, and I feel like they're easy to like at first. Like
yeah,
Usopp has a lot of qualities that make him less likable as like a character that you would like look up to. If you're like watching like an anime or a show, and then like you want to see a cool character. So I like how Usopp's like not the typical shonen hero that you would have
right,
that would be like the one to save the day. Like he's a very different character, and for that I think that makes him a stronger character because he is a very different vibe from the others. So he switches things up a little bit,
right.
and I like that diversity with like the personality types that we're having so far.
Totally, and I feel like it gives this character a lot of room to grow, which I think we have seen already just in this volume.
Yeah,
He's like the pathological liar, and doesn't bring a ton to the table as far as like being a crew member. Like he's like a wannabe pirate, but has no real experience and seems to cause trouble for just sake of causing trouble.
yeah,
But I think put in these life and death situations or these high stress situations, he's proven in this volume that he's got the mettle to like be a pirate and be an honorable pirate and stick up for his crew and take care of the people that he loves, like Kaya in this situation.
yeah.
He kind of did everything. He did everything he physically could to keep Kaya safe, and that was admirable.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, with Usopp, like we saw like earlier how like he was scared and he was like
Mhm.
his knees were shaking. He was like trying to put on a brave face, but like
Yeah,
he is scared. But despite that, he's still here and he's still fighting to save the village. But even like earlier, like he was like fighting with Nami about like who was weaker, like who should go fight. Like he's trying to make a case that like
yeah,
he should say back, Nami, you go handle this. And yeah, so there's moments where like he's still like not stepping up to the plate, but he's still there and he's still trying, and like he's trying to play to his strengths too. With the
right,
slingshot, he's more of like a distance fighter. He doesn't really like to get up close and personal. We saw it didn't go so well when he got hit by the hammer. So yeah, I think he's just like a very like interesting character that over time I feel like he becomes a lot more likable.
hmm
So if you're already starting to like him now, yeah, that's a good sign. Because he does have some like really great moments, and um, I just think at first he might not be like a character that you initially gravitate towards.
right.
But he's I think you grow to appreciate like those differences in this character.
Totally. I mean, I think at the beginning he's so wishy washy. He'll say one thing and immediately go back on what he just said. Um, so it's kind of hard to admire that or get behind that. But I do think at the end of this volume, he shows a lot of grit that is admirable and likable as a character,
Yeah,
and that you can kind of start seeing like his role within the crew that's been established so far. I think he kind of brings a few things to the table that aren't currently in, like you were saying, like his long distance fighting skills,
yeah,
his kind of like, it's funny. I feel like they kind of played up his ability to make a plan, like come up with a plan and execute a plan,
Yeah.
which was something that this crew's kind of been lacking. And I was like, all right, maybe he'll fill that hole. And then that plan immediately went to shit when they slicked the the pathway, and then it turns out they're in the wrong place the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, like I guess not, but also at the same time that makes him fit into this group even better because
Yeah.
that's so on point for this crew. It's pretty funny.
It's kind of they could spend all that time making a plan, but it's like, is Luffy even going to follow the plan?
Right.
Yeah, we saw like he was so impulsive, like he just ran off,
Right.
like to go fight them. Like he didn't stay to listen to like, where to go.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so I feel like this this volume leaves off again basically on a cliffhanger. So this is kind of just like the act 2 before we lead
Totally.
into act 3 for the finale of the arc.
Lots
So
of
yeah,
setup. Lots of
a lot,
setup.
lot of setup in this volume.
Yeah, this volume was definitely not as meaty as some of the previous volumes.
Yeah. And like I was saying, like before, like some of the chapters are just like a lot shorter.
Yeah.
They go a little quick. So even with like the summaries, there wasn't really too much to go over.
Yeah, definitely.
But still some good stuff in here for sure.
Absolutely. I think to speak like overall, I think that I'm really starting to get into Oda's writing style and his paneling. I feel like, you know, we are 4 volumes in now. I feel like I have had like a good amount of exposure to his writing style, his artistic style, and I'm starting to become, I think, comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Like for me, this volume, I found myself like laughing out loud more so than in maybe the previous volumes that might have arguably probably were funnier. But I just think that like at this point, like I've become more comfortable with his storytelling. And so it's almost like I'm getting his sense of humor. Like I get the sarcasm. I think I read it more fluidly just because I'm just getting used to it.
Yeah.
Or maybe this was a funnier volume. I don't know. But I think that like at this point, I'm becoming more familiar with Oda's style, and I'm really enjoying it. And I think I'm starting to get, I think, his sense of humor, and I'm finding it very humorous and just really interesting and fun. And like, yeah, this wasn't the most, you know, gratifying volume yet, or like it wasn't the meatiest volume yet, but I still feel like I got a lot out of it and really enjoyed the experience.
Oh, for sure.
And I think the SBS also added a lot for me. I thought that was a really cool addition, and maybe even more comfortable with his writing style. I feel like I'm getting to know him as an author more. And you really get like his sense of humor. And I think once you get their sense of humor and like the pacing of the panels, I think that it's easier to like fall into that world and laugh out loud at the jokes because they hit harder, you know? Then maybe when you read the first volume and you start trying to figure out what Oda's all about and like what his sense of humor is.
Yeah, you're trying to pick up all the details, like get a sense of like this world. Like you don't know anything about this world,
right?
And you're going into it, and you're trying to put the pieces together, fill in the gaps, and like you're trying to build from like the ground.
Right.
So you're kind of doing a lot at first. And now, like you were saying, like you're kind of settling in. You're not doing as much building from the beginning because like you already have like a foundation. So from there, you can get a sense of, like these characters, like what their quirks are, and like what like you know those jokes are for those characters, and like what to look out for them.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I'm really excited for the boss battle coming up.
Yeah. I do think this volume, like you're saying, like it's not as meaty, but like there is a lot of like really cool moments in it.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of like character building, and kind of like with Usopp as a character, I feel like with Oda's art style, some of it is kind of like an acquired taste because it is very different from when you look at a lot of other like series. Like they have a very different art style, or it's like there's more kind of like typical anime designs that you would see in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like with One Piece, it really breaks the mold in a lot of ways because a lot of the characters are just so wildly different from like anything you've seen before.
Absolutely. And
And
I
for
think
some
that was
people, sorry, like for some people, I feel like it's a little off-putting.
mhm.
But to me, I think it's a strength of the series. And I think maybe some people just need to kind of like get used to it. But like there are so many different types of characters in this series, and it's a good thing that that they're designed in these ways. Very unique. It's always like exciting to see new characters, and like I feel like with women sometimes like they do kind of fall into like a more typical mold that like people
Yeah.
criticize Oda for a lot of his women kind of looking the same way.
Uh-huh.
Um, so that is one thing that's a valid criticism, but for the most part, like his characters are like very different looking from each other.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I agree with everything you're saying. Like you were just saying, Nami and Kaya do look very similar to each
Yeah,
other. Speaking to like the women not being as diverse, but I think that the character design and having these really wild characters, I think adds just like a lot of depth and character to the series on a whole. Um, and I'm really enjoying it. I think that the quirkiness and the weirdness of those characters just adds a lot to this series. And I think there was even a comment in the SBS in this volume that was like, "Why do you make your characters so wild?" And he's like, "Isn't it fun? Like, aren't you
yeah,
enjoying it?" Like, I think that was kind of his take on it, being
right.
like, "Why not? Like, this is a really fun, magical world where anything is possible. So, like, why not have these crazy, fun, creative characters?" And I think like being an artist and loving this medium for its endless possibilities and like unhindered creative ability. Like you can really, literally do whatever you want. Like if you can see it in
Yeah,
your head, you can draw it. It's possible in this world. I feel like this world isn't limited to. There's random characters with horns and or half animal, half human, or like in Gamon's world with all of the crazy animals that
yeah,
are like the mixed species animals. And I don't know. I just think that it's nice seeing Oda having fun with the character design, and I feel like I've really appreciated it. Visually, I think it's really fun, and why not?
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and he's not afraid to get weird or experiment or like
Yeah,
go to different places. So, yeah, you're just at like the tip of the iceberg. So there's a lot of different things coming up to be excited for. So
can't wait.
stay tuned. All right, so I think that's gonna do it for this week's episode. So we're not going to update any rankings this week. We haven't finished any new arcs, and we haven't concluded the story with Kuro. So when we finish the Syrup Village arc, which is the name of this town, we'll rank the arc and we'll add Kuro to the list as well. So that'll probably be next episode.
Sweet.
All right. Well, yeah, that's gonna be it for this week. I've been Joel. I go by Pirate King Codex. You can find me on YouTube. I do One Piece content there. Right now, I'm focusing on the One Piece card game. Um, but I'm hoping to have more content coming up in the future with different varieties. So be on the lookout for that. All right. So thanks for coming aboard. Bring along all your hopes and dreams, and we'll see you in the next episode.